In August of this year, the Italian police launched a nationwide operation to target Chinese mafia forces. On August 4th, the police reported that in this raid against the Chinese mafia, they conducted surprise searches of hundreds of stores and vehicles, arresting 13 people. The charges included drug trafficking, prostitution, and aggravated robbery. Aggravated robbery refers to robbery with specific malicious circumstances. According to Reuters, Andrea Olivadese, an official responsible for organized crime, mentioned that the raids spanned across 25 provinces, including Milan, Rome, Florence, Prato, and Catania. The police also reported 31 people for judicial investigation and seized about 555 grams of methamphetamine, equivalent to 5,500 doses. They inspected hundreds of shops and vehicles during the operation. The crimes committed by these gangs primarily targeted Chinese victims. Similar to traditional mafia behavior, they used intimidation and violence to control their territory. Revenge is deeply rooted in their mindset, and conflicts often escalate into family-like vendettas. Prato, a town near Florence, is Europe's largest garment production center, home to a large Chinese community, where Chinese mafia activity has been rampant. Recently, Chinese mafia gangs have been involved in a hanger war. This isn't a metaphor. It's a real mafia struggle over the control of clothes hanger production, worth approximately 100 million euros annually. It's also a form of control over clothing industry logistics. Zhang Naizhong, who controls the transportation network, has been referred to as the boss of all bosses by local prosecutors. He monopolized the transportation industry and had businesses in France, Spain, Portugal, and Germany. However, his deputy, Zhang Dayong, was shot and killed in Rome this April, which sparked a new wave of conflict. The police suspect that this incident is linked to a turf war between Chinese gangs in Italy. Prato, located in Tuscany, has a population of nearly 200,000 and the largest Chinese community in Europe. Recently, many Chinese factory owners and workers have been beaten, and warehouses and vehicles have been set on fire. According to AFP, Luca Tescaroli, the prosecutor in Prato, has requested assistance from the Italian government to establish an anti-mafia task force and increase police presence. He mentioned that the conflict has spread to France and Spain, with Chinese gangs even helping illegal immigrants enter local garment factories. Former investigator Francesco Nanucci stated that Chinese gangs run underground casinos, prostitution, and drug trafficking, and also launder money for Italian mafias. He explained that controlling Prato means having influence in Europe. As many illegal immigrants have been brought into Prato by the Chinese gangs, workers from various countries are too afraid to speak out. According to local government statistics, 2/3 of the Chinese population in Prato are illegal immigrants. Many of these illegal workers come from countries like China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. These workers endure extremely harsh conditions, long hours, low wages, and no job security, which has led them to be described as modern slaves. Local lawmakers have stated that nearly 90% of Chinese-run factories in the area violate the law in various ways. These include using smuggled goods from China, tax evasion, and severe violations of health and labor regulations. In Italy, there are Chinese mafia groups, while in Australia, there are Chinese fraud syndicates. On the morning of July 30th, police launched a raid in Sydney's Barangaroo and Seaforth, arresting two men, 38-year-old Bing Michael Lee and 34-year-old Yi Zhe Tony He. At Lee's residence, police stormed a room and conducted a search. Shortly after, Lee, dressed in a jacket and white pants, was escorted out of the room by two men in suits and later taken to a police car. On July 31st, New South Wales police confirmed they had dismantled a major fraud and money laundering syndicate. Two Chinese men, suspected of being the masterminds, were arrested. Police also raided multiple locations in Sydney, seizing assets including luxury cars, watches, cash, and drugs. The Australian reported on August 1st that Bing Lee was one of the two masterminds behind the fraud scheme. He was taken from a luxurious apartment with a monthly rent of 37,000 Australian dollars. He was wearing a $6,000 Louis Vuitton pilot jacket when arrested. The valuables in the luxury apartment were worth over 1 million Australian dollars. Following the raid, police traced more than 10 properties in Sydney, seizing 2 Bentleys, a Ferrari 360, cash, a gun, 2 tasers, bulletproof vests, and small quantities of drugs. Lee faces 87 charges, including fraud, money laundering, document forgery, and dealing with proceeds of crime, allegedly defrauding 12.9 million Australian dollars. He appeared in Downing local court on August 1st and was denied bail. Lee will remain in custody until his next court appearance on September 11th. Another Chinese man is facing 107 charges, including involvement in a criminal group, fraud, and handling criminal proceeds, with an estimated fraud amount of 4 million Australian dollars. He appeared in Manly local court and was also denied bail. Reports from Chinese news space revealed that police even found large amounts of RMB cash in one property. The details of the operation show that the total value of the luxury goods and assets seized exceeded 20 million Australian dollars, and the total frozen assets related to the fraud group have now reached 38 million Australian dollars. The fraud syndicate is accused of illegally stealing the personal information of over 33 people and using it to obtain car loans from several car financing companies in Sydney. They bought luxury cars like Tesla, Mercedes, and Ferrari, defrauding these companies of at least 30 million Australian dollars. However, when it came time for repayment, the lenders realized that these were phantom loans, and the individuals listed as borrowers were completely unaware. After the 30 million Australian dollars was stolen, the money was quickly transferred to other accounts and laundered through multiple transfers across various accounts. In June this year, police arrested a 26-year-old Chinese man who was suspected of making several transfers, handling a total of 3.8 million Australian dollars. However, he was not the actual mastermind of the fraud syndicate. The Sydney Morning Herald revealed that in January of last year, police launched a joint investigation, codenamed Strike Force Middleton, targeting a criminal group suspected of defrauding car finance companies and other lending institutions. Initial investigations found that the syndicate used stolen personal identity information to apply for home loans and business loans. Then they used the loans to purchase fictitious luxury cars, also known as ghost cars. This was to defraud the institutions of huge sums. Later, the police charged 6 people in connection with the case, and the New South Wales Crime Commission subsequently froze 18 million Australian dollars worth of assets. On July 31st, the police stated that further investigation revealed the fraud was not limited to car financing, but also involved large-scale personal, business, and home loan fraud. In Australia, Chinese people have been arrested for participating in blessing scams. In these scams, fraudsters set up situations to convince victims that they or their families are facing a calamity and claim that they can perform rituals to avert the disaster. On July 4th, New South Wales police announced they were investigating a series of blessing scams targeting the Asian community. On the evening of July 3rd, with the assistance of Australian Federal Police, a 36-year-old woman was arrested at Sydney International Airport. The police charged her with defrauding a 77-year-old Chinese woman in the Parramatta area, stealing a large amount of cash and jewelry. The 63-year-old woman has been charged with dishonestly obtaining property by deception, participating in a criminal group, and conspiring to steal with the intent to rob. She was denied bail. Since July 2023, there have been multiple reports of blessing scams targeting the Chinese community, particularly elderly women, in areas across Greater Sydney, such as Ryde, Burwood, Parramatta, and Hornsby. Over 80 cases have been reported, amounting to a total fraud of 3 million Australian dollars. In April this year, the New South Wales Police set up a task force to investigate these scams throughout Sydney. In these scams, fraudsters trick victims into handing over money and jewelry for a blessing ritual, only to swap out the items. The scammers then instruct the victims not to open the bag containing the items for several days, preventing them from realizing the deception immediately. The police are urging the Chinese community, especially elderly individuals, to avoid trusting strangers who approach them under the guise of looking for Chinese medicine or seeking blessings. These are often the starting points of the scams. The public is advised to avoid engaging in prolonged conversations with strangers, not to follow them to any locations, not to invite them into their homes, and never to give money or jewelry for supposed blessing ceremonies. In Australia, Chinese individuals have been arrested for their involvement in fraud, while in the United States, Chinese individuals have been arrested for illegal marijuana production, leading to fatalities. On August 1st, the Los Angeles County District Attorney announced the arrest of 6 individuals involved in an illegal marijuana extraction case that resulted in the deaths of 5 people in 2023 and 2024. 2 of the Chinese masterminds have been charged with murder. The incident occurred on October 9, 2023, at an illegal marijuana oil extraction lab in Irwindale, Los Angeles County. There, an explosion and fire led to the deaths of 3 individuals, 35-year-old Guang Qifu, 39-year-old Xing Chen, and 35-year-old Qi Luoqiang. A 4th person, 47-year-old Yi Luo, managed to escape the fire but died in the hospital later that evening from severe burns. Investigations revealed that all 4 were lab workers. The lab was run by 53-year-old Ted Chen from Temple City and his partner, 55-year-old Han Qianqiao from Rosemead. In November 2024, another deadly accident occurred at a different illegal marijuana lab in South El Monte. Warden Tony Sakarin died in a fire. Despite these deaths, Chen and Zhao continue to illegally produce and distribute marijuana products. In late July this year, a large-scale joint search operation. Search warrants were executed, and officers raided the suspects' residences, 2 warehouses in South El Monte, an office, a drug lab in Laverne, and a distribution center in Gardena. During the operation, authorities seized a large amount of illegal marijuana products, including highly concentrated marijuana crystals, brightly packaged marijuana products, and bags of waste and discarded marijuana from the production process. The total haul is estimated at 27 tons, with a market value exceeding $100 million. Chen has been charged with 5 counts of murder, 1 for multiple murders under special circumstances, and 2 counts of arson causing bodily harm, 8 counts of manufacturing controlled substances, and 3 counts of using a property for the sale and use of controlled substances. If convicted, he faces a maximum sentence of life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole, but no death penalty. Zhao is facing charges of murder, arson causing bodily harm, 8 counts of manufacturing controlled substances, and 3 counts of using a property for the sale or use of controlled substances. If convicted, he will also face a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. In addition to Ted Chen and Han Juanchao, police also arrested 4 workers involved in drug production: 36-year-old Xiao Longdeng, 61-year-old Cheng Yanxu, 30-year-old Christopher Reyes, and 35-year-old Frank Herrera. The 4 individuals face charges of conspiring to manufacture controlled substances, with Xu facing an additional 2 charges of drug manufacturing. According to the indictment, Xu faces a maximum sentence of 8 years and 8 months, while the other 3 face a maximum of 7 years each. Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman stated in a press release that this case highlights how the illegal marijuana business puts greed ahead of the safety of workers and neighbors, leading to fatal and disastrous consequences. While marijuana may be legal in California, this high-risk illegal activity is still unlawful. This case is one of the largest illegal marijuana operations in Los Angeles County. The 2 main suspects, Ted Chen and Han Chuanchao, were already involved in drug trafficking, but their disregard for human life resulted in the death of workers. This news has shocked the Chinese community in the United States. However, the issue that has been gaining significant attention in the Chinese American community recently is the increasing arrests of illegal immigrants. As discussed in previous videos, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has raided Chinese communities, shutting down several underground nightclubs. Around 2,000 Chinese illegal immigrants face deportation. A joint study by the Asian American Studies Center and the Center for Neighborhood Knowledge at UCLA found that the number of Asian individuals arrested by ICE is 3 times higher than it was in the same period last year. Among Asians, the Chinese community makes up the largest group, and the numbers are expected to continue rising in the second half of the year. Between February and May, the proportion of arrests involving Asians increased from 1.8% last year to 2.6%. The increase was particularly significant in late May and early June. In the first week of June alone, the number of arrests was more than 9 times higher than the same period last year. Of those arrested, 30% were from China, 26% from India, and 15% from Vietnam. The Chinese individuals mentioned earlier were arrested in Western countries. However, in February of this year, Chinese nationals were also arrested for crimes in Japan. On February 12, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department's International Crime Division announced the arrest of 3 Chinese nationals, including 37-year-old executive Wang Minglin, for allegedly laundering criminal proceeds from investment fraud via social media, in violation of Japan's organized crime punishment law. Lin and the others are believed to have been involved in a money laundering scheme for a criminal organization operating out of China, Taiwan, and Vietnam. The suspects communicated in Chinese, and the Tokyo Metropolitan Police suspect that a Chinese gang was involved in the fraud. They will continue to investigate to determine the full extent of their involvement. The other 2 arrested suspects are Chinese nationals, 37-year-old Zhang Li and 35-year-old Li Yuchen, whose occupations are unclear. According to Nikkei Asian Review, the 3 individuals are accused of accepting commissions from a fraud syndicate involved in social media investment scams and romance scams. To conceal the source of their funds, they repeatedly transferred money between accounts. From January 2021 to May 2024, they handled approximately 50 billion yen in funds and are believed to have earned commissions from the perpetrators. These 3 suspects were arrested for allegedly transferring 64.5 million yen, including money defrauded from a man in his 70s from Kanagawa Prefecture, They move the money through online banking to multiple accounts they manage to hide the criminal proceeds. The International Crime Countermeasures Division did not disclose whether the suspects have confessed. The 3 suspects are believed to have managed around 300 accounts, primarily using corporate accounts. They defrauded about 2.3 billion yen from about 90 people across 29 prefectures. The illicit funds were transferred through overseas financial institutions and eventually handed over to the fraud syndicate. Whether it's money laundering in Japan, drug production in the US, fraud in Australia, or Chinese mafia fighting in Italy, these are all scandals involving Chinese people. Particularly with the mafia, there may be connections to the Chinese Communist Party. The fact that law enforcement agencies in multiple countries are arresting these criminals is a heartening development. Voice of America reported that in 2022, the human rights organization Safeguard Defenders revealed that the Chinese government had established over 100 overseas police stations worldwide, with the most in Italy. The police stations are located in Rome, Milan, Florence, Venice, Prato, and Sicily, raising concerns among local governments and politicians. In fact, as early as 2016, the CCP began setting up these overseas police stations, operating with the full support of local Chinese diaspora organizations. After the discovery of these CCP overseas police stations, Italian Minister of the Interior Matteo Piantedosi announced that Italy would no longer conduct joint patrols with the Chinese police. During the investigation, the Italian police discovered that some of the leaders of the diaspora organizations were closely connected to the CCP, and they were involved in organized crime. Investigations and intercepted communications revealed that Zhang Naizhong, a Chinese mafia leader, had met and maintained contact with Chinese diplomats. Analysts believe that the CCP typically recruits influential and wealthy overseas Chinese to serve as leaders of diaspora organizations to carry out its United Front work. Some scholars have pointed out that certain overseas mafia members overlap with leaders of diaspora groups and business associations, which may have connections to the CCP's United Work Front. In some cases, mafia forces may be mobilized to maintain order within the diaspora community, or exert pressure during specific events.